Okay, so here's another little short talk. It's called The Magic of Einstein, and that's to do with the ether. So this is the usual translation of Einstein's first paper on special relativity. I've dealt with the issues that it's been mistranslated, but for the sake of this video I'm just going to go with what it's saying. Einstein says the following, and it seems unaffected by any translation problems, and the quote is: "The introduction of a luminescence ether will prove to be superfluous inasmuch as the view here to be developed will not require an absolutely stationary space provided with special properties, nor assign a velocity vector to a point of the empty space in which electromagnetic processes take place." That's the end of the quote. And the mainstream seems to interpret that as Einstein discarding the ether. And most of the time when Einstein talks about bringing back the ether in his later years, that seems to be ignored. So in the context of 1905, he seems to be discarding the ether. So now let's look at the maths he presents in his 1905 paper on special relativity. And this is the maths. He's talking about a rod with endpoints A and B with light movement between A and B as the rod moves in the same direction as the light. And below is the quote from what he's saying in the paper. So what you do is you end up equations with C minus V and C plus V in it, and that is being added in the usual way of speeds. There's nothing about adding speed in a relativistic way in the beginning of the paper. So C minus V means take away V from C, and if V is greater than 0, and of course C is greater than 0, C minus V would be less than C. Similarly, C plus V for C and V greater than 0, C plus V is greater than C. So in that equation he has got speeds less than light speed C and greater than light speed C. And in the paper there's no mention of ether in that context. However, if we go on, if you go to this book, Introduction to Modern Physics, the original was published in 1928. It uses different notation but ends up with the same maths as what Einstein is using previously. So the book is considering light going in the transverse direction and longitudinal direction. In the transverse direction it's going from plate to mirror M1, but in the case we're considering, which is the longitudinal direction, it's from the plate to M2. And so the book says the following, and you can note that it's using C minus V and C plus V. So for C and V both greater than 0, C minus V and C plus V, which are really the light speeds, are not then going to be equal to C. So the thing to note from the book is when it says C being the speed of light through the ether, it's using the word ether, and when Einstein does this particular bit of maths, he doesn't use the word ether. And by omitting the word ether, it means he's omitting to say that light is moving relative to an ether frame. So Einstein is using an ether in his maths, but he's not saying that's what he's doing. And that's the magic of Einstein. Einstein uses an ether when he says there's no ether. Well, interpreted as saying no ether. And those who come after him most often say there is no ether, and ignoring what he later says, or seems to say. And he seems to say in 1920, in that reference down there, that there is an ether. But in 1905 he seems to be saying there is no ether. And his followers are locked into believing what he says in 1905, it seems. So if we go to the Wikipedia, it starts talking about a vortex theory, and the vortex theory was around in the 19th century before Einstein, and the vortex theory was dependent upon ether. So making the ether disappear made vortex theory disappear as well. And it's making it disappear in the sense of most physicists in mainstream stop talking about it, stop teaching about it, etc. And that's what Einstein does. He magically made the ether disappear, and he magically made the vortex theory disappear. People taking his word as authority about the ether then start ignoring what the physics was around in the day of Einstein. And that's the end. Thank you.